I used this exact resume to get interviews from Google, Meta, Amazon, and so many other companies. I got over 30 plus interviews just by changing things on my resume. And I also got multiple different six-figure offers in the toughest job market that I have ever seen and been through. In the next 10 minutes or so, I will break down exactly what I used on my resume, what kind of mistakes you should not make, what kind of templates you should use, and exactly how you can do it step by step so you can copy it on your resume today itself. This video is not theoretical at all. I'll show you exactly what kind of words to use, how to not keyword stuff your resume and add too many keywords that don't even make sense, and how I quantified impact even though I did not have the perfect metrics all of the time. And do stick till the end. I'll give you one-page template and a bullet point formula that you can copy paste onto your resume tonight itself. Before we get started, hi everyone, I am Jugal. I work at Amazon as a software engineer and I got multiple different six-figure offers straight out of university, and now I help other people achieve the same. I have a community of over 100,000 people over on my Instagram and more on my LinkedIn, where I break down the detailed analysis of how you can get a job in this tough job market. So make sure to hit the subscribe button down below so that you don't miss out on any of my videos regarding job applications or masters in the USA. Alright, the first and the most important thing that you need to make sure on your resume is that you don't have any of those fancy colors, those photos and whatnot. I cannot emphasize the number of times I have seen people send me their resumes for reviewing them, and they have all these pretty designs, different colors, which just takes up a lot of space and make the resume feel very cluttered. Yes, the packaging of the resume is important, but you also need to realize who you are packaging it for. You're not packaging it for to make a design contest or participate in some UI UX hackathon or something like that. You're making sure that the recruiter or the hiring manager who is going to read your resume understands your resume as soon as they glance at it, because recruiters and hiring managers don't spend more than 7 or 10 seconds on your resume, and you need to make sure that your resume is compelling enough and tells a story about you in those 7 or 10 seconds and gives them a reason to take you forward in the interview process. Think of it this way, it's like a YouTube thumbnail. You wouldn't click a YouTube thumbnail that does not appeal to you personally. There are tons of different videos out there, tons of different packaging and everything, but you click on the thumbnail that relates with you the most. The same goes for recruiters and hiring managers when it comes to your resume. They look at the resume in this case, which they can easily scan and parse rather than having to go through different kinds of resumes each after one another, because they are reviewing more than 200 resumes every single day. Okay, now that I've told you what not to do on your resume, but what kind of format should you actually use? Make sure your resume is exactly one page long if you're applying for entry-level roles or roles that do not have more than 10-15 years of work experience required, because there is no way you have more than one page to talk about yourself on your relevant skills that are particular to that job position. The resume should always follow a single column format in which everything is there in one column from top to bottom. You're not dividing into two different columns, having your work experience on this side, education on this side, none of those things. You need to keep it as simple and as clear as possible. And a lot of you think about it this way, that I'll include as many things on my resume as possible to fit it into one page by reducing the font size. Please, please, please do not do that, because you want to make it readable. There's a live human that's going to read your resume. It's not just the automated system that's going to be reading your resume. So you need to make sure that it is readable. So the font size on your resume should be between 10 to 12 points, and it can use any of these particular fonts which are very clear and very readable to the recruiters. Now everyone has a different way of writing and formatting the resume from top to the bottom, but what has worked best for me and for my students is having your education section at the top if you're applying for entry-level roles, which most of you would be. Then comes your work experience, any previous internships, full-time roles that you have held in the past, then your skills section which are very relevant to that particular position, and then any relevant projects in that particular domain. You should not include any projects that were not related to that domain. For example, if you're applying for software engineering roles, there is no need to include any project where you worked in an NGO for design or something of that sort, because it's just not related. It might be something great that you achieved in the past, but it is not really related to this particular position. And don't worry, we'll break down each and every section in depth in the video. Now when it comes to work experience, a mistake that a lot of people make and that I made as well was just blobbing down everything that you did at that particular role without highlighting any sort of impact, what kind of tools or tech stack did you use or whatnot. I used to write, I designed this service. That's about it. I did not add any quantifiable or meaningful metrics. Whereas each and every point of yours should follow, I did X with Y to achieve Z. where X is the kind of feature or the project you worked on, Y is the tools or the tech stack that you used, and Z is the quantifiable impact that you created. Those can be numbers, those can be anything related to that project that has a quantifiable numerical metric to it. So just to give you an example on how this would look like on your resume, look at this point here. Rather than writing I worked on the Java SIP Cisco adapter and I did this and that, you should write it in a way that I updated the Java SIP adapter in Java and SIP protocol, which clearly highlights the two things, which is X and Y. What did you work on and how did you work on it, and what was the result, resulting in a 20% decrease in dropped calls due to errors across 60% of the client base which use that particular thing. So this clearly covers all of those three things of X, Y and Z which I mentioned earlier. The important thing on this particular step is you should not try to write a poem or a poetry in your resume. You should be very specific and be very mindful of the role that you're applying for, and each and every point should be catered to that particular position that you're applying for. If that position requires more of a role towards front-end development or more towards Python, you should highlight those particular points higher up on your resume in the terms of points, rather than highlighting something that is unrelated like Java in this case. And this brings us to rule number 3. Relevance on your resume matters far more than the completeness of your resume. You should definitely cut all the bullet points on your resume, whether it's in your projects, work experience, or even educational projects that you took up, which do not relate to that particular role, and only keep those particular pointers that are for that role. That way you can be much more clear and direct for the role that you're applying for. The way I like to do this, and it makes it so much easier, is that you grab the job description from the website, put it onto ChatGPT or any other LLM service out there, ask it to give you the top relevant skills that are required for this particular role and how you can make changes on your resume while also attaching your resume. It will give you clear and concise bullet points on what you can do and what you should not do on your resume when you're applying for that role. And I know this takes up a lot of time, so if you don't want to go through the hassle of catering your resume for each and every role, each and every time you're applying, I created a free N10 workflow for you guys, which you can simply run every morning at 5 a.m. and it will parse all the jobs from LinkedIn which were posted in the last 24 hours. It will take your resume, help you cater and give you the exact points that you can use on your resume for that particular role, and also give you a cover letter and a link to directly apply for that role. The same goes for a skill section. Whatever role you're applying for, your skill section should mirror the skills that are required for that role. Rather than including everything and anything that you ever worked on, you should only include the things that are very relevant to that role. For example, if I'm applying to a position that requires proficiency in Python, Django, Postgres as a database, and JavaScript for frontend, I would only include the frameworks and the services that are related to those particular languages on my skill section at the very beginning. Now up till this point I talked a big game on how important numbers are on your resume, because numbers make everything concrete. Be mindful, you should not include fake metrics. You should be ethical as much as possible on your resume, and you should never lie on your resume because recruiters can easily find that out. But I've not yet talked about on how you can find those numbers and what kind of numbers you can use. So let's talk about that right now. You always don't need to include the kind of metrics that you created for the customer. It can be internal metrics. If a feature or a service you worked on decreased in the latency that it had, include the P95 or the P99 latencies for that particular service. You can easily Google these terms and understand what it means, and you most definitely would have improved this particular latencies on your feature. You can also include stuff regarding reliability of your service, like the error rate or the incident rate and how you brought that down. Now if you're not really in tech and are looking for product roles, it can look something like the scale of the service that you worked on. What were the number of monthly active users, daily active users? If it was not published, what kind of users did you create it for? How many people tested it out and gave you feedback on it? All these are quantifiable numbers that you can easily include on your resume. And something that all companies love to see on your resume are the business related metrics that your particular feature or project achieved on that particular task. It could be the conversion percentage, the churn rate, the kind of revenue you brought in. Or if you can't share the exact numbers, use range, like I increased it by 25 to 30% on my revenue, because you can't include the exact range and recruiters do understand that. And the last point, which I also mentioned at the start of this particular video, you should always use a ATS friendly resume, because in most of the big companies that you would be applying for, ATS is the kind of system that is called applicant tracking system that does the initial ranking and filtering of resumes, which get passed on to the recruiters. So in order to make your resume more ATS friendly, learn about something called latex. Latex is kind of a code that you can write to create beautiful and ATS parsable documents, PDFs, Word documents, comments or whatnot, there's a website called overleaf.com where you can easily write this code. It is easily understandable by LLMs as well, so you can ask LLMs to edit your resume over there and then itself, rather than you having to do it manually every single time. The template that I was talking about at the start of this video is called Jake Ryan's resume template, and if you notice my resume with it, it looks pretty similar. The entire layout is the same. The only thing that I changed was putting my education section on the top and reordering some of the formatting of the resume, which worked the best for me. And another thing to keep in mind while looking at the ATS systems is to figure out the keywords and the skills that are necessary for that particular role. And once you figure out the keywords and the skills, you should include and highlight those skills on your resume. You should make the things that are important on your resume bold, suggesting that they are highlighted. You need to take the recruiter on a journey with you on your resume from top to bottom. And recruiters, when they're just spending 7 to 10 seconds on your resume, they don't have a lot of time. You should be able to guide their eyes on your resume where they should look, where they should not look, and clearly highlight the important things. That could be what company did you work on, what was the time frame that you worked at that company, what was the role that you had at that company, what kind of metrics did you achieve in that particular bullet point, what were the skills that were used or the tech stack that was used in that particular bullet point. All of these things make it easier for both the machine and the human to read your resume and understand what is important and what is not important. As always, if you have any questions on your particular resume, or if you want a review or anything like that, put them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to help you guys over there and take each one of your cases considerably, such that I can help you the best way possible. I've mentioned all the links from my exact resume to the template that I used, and everything from Overleaf to what kind of keywords that you can use, the prompts that you can use to make your resume better, in the description box below, so do check it out. And please go ahead and like this video and consider subscribing to the channel if you found this video useful for you. I'll be dropping more of these videos about my experience at Amazon, from interviewing, the behavioral interviews, and what kind of compensation packages do these top companies give, and how you can negotiate it further. So stay tuned for that, and do subscribe to the channel. Your continued support is what keeps me going and what keeps this channel going and growing. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one.